Hi guys, welcome to American Lit. We're going to be talking about elements of an epic today. Please make sure to take notes. I've not written everything on the board and I would like you to follow along. First of all, an epic is by definition, a story, poem. Classic epics are written in poetic form and they are meant to talk about a great hero of a society, and the basic purpose is to communicate those values that are important to that society. For example, in the Odyssey with Odysseus, who's the main character, he was known for being a clever man. And he was his patron goddess was Athena, a goddess of wisdom and cleverness. And so that kind of lets us know that to the ancient Greeks, cleverness was a quality to be celebrated. Even at times, it was like a trickster type of idea. Now let's talk about what happens in this classic type of element and then late epic, and then what we'll do is we'll talk about how that pertains to Huckleberry Finn later. First of all, what they start out with is invocation to the muse. This classic epic form, which is a Greek form of writing, began with Homer, Odyssey, and the Iliad. Or you can also say it possibly began with the Babylonian epic or Sumerian epic, Epic of Gilgamesh, that's why it's called an epic. And it begins with what's considered to be an invocation to the muse. Now, the muse is the Greek word for a goddess of one of the literary or arts, etc. There were certain muses that were goddesses, and what they did was they gifted men with great abilities to perform artistic works, sculpture, painting, etc. And so invocation to the muse, invocation just means to invoke the blessing of. It's like a prayer to the muse. Now, in different societies, it wouldn't necessarily be called the muse. It would be called a different god or goddess, depending on what you're doing as far as the arts or who you wanted to bless it. Okay. The other possibility is that you're going to start with the proposition of the subject. That means I'm proposing what the subject matter is going to be. If you're doing the epic with Achilles in it, and it's going to be the Odyssey, and if you're doing that one, then the proposition of the subject is going to say, let's talk about the rage of Achilles, and that's the proposition of the subject. In classic epics, you also have it beginning what's called in media res, meaning in the middle of the action. You don't start with the birth of the main character and watch him grow, etc. It's a biography. Okay, this is going to start in the middle of the action, and most of the time this is commonly known action. For example, the Odyssey starts in the middle of the Trojan War, a war with Greece and Troy, and it's basically the last battles that determine the fate of the city of Troy. So it starts in media res. Another one is a classic supernatural intervention. You basically have the gods playing their different heroes, kings, queens, etc., heroes of high standing, as almost chess pieces. So you have Athena who blesses this person, and the god of war blessing this person, and they have promises that they've made to their heroes, because the heroes have dedicated things to the gods and goddesses, and somehow Zeus has to make this all come true. So if, and it's always dealing with technicalities. Say, for example, Athena has promised her hero to never leave him or turn her back on him. And Ares has promised, or Mars has promised, the god of war has promised his hero that his hero will never be defeated. Well, then mortals take this in certain ways, but you always have to read between the lines. So Athena's hero never gets left, but it might end up in Hades instead. And so, but she doesn't leave him, or the god of war might have him never defeated, but that doesn't mean he's not going to die. Okay, so you have to be very careful with this. And so there's always these supernatural elements that come in to kind of try to explain some of the vagaries of what happens in war or confrontations. Okay, next one is a hero of high standing. You don't have your kitchen person showing up with the spear and saving the day. This is going to be people like Achilles, who is a great war hero, or Hector, who's the prince, or Helen of Troy, the most beautiful woman in the world. And you're going to have all of these that focus on a hero who has a big role, leads lots of people, has some type of supernatural strength. You have Hercules, or you have Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, who's 99% God and 1% man, and still can't make it into heaven, if you want to call it that, because he's still got that one drop of mortal blood. So his quest is to find eternal life. You have Achilles, who is there to avenge his best friend who gets killed, and that's where we get the Rage of Achilles. So all these are hero of high standing, so if they fall, it takes a lot of people with them. They might represent all of Greece. If I go in battle with so-and-so and, I'm their standing hero, it's kind of the David-Goliath. If David wins, then Israel gets the day. If Goliath wins, then the Philistines get the day. So you have this whole society based around a leadership of a single person or of single heroes who are going to stand in the gap. All right, the next part of classic epics are on the next board. So, another part that we may not understand nowadays, unless you're Southern, then you kind of understand feasting and or funeral games going together, because, if someone dies, you bring food. That's not the way it works so much in an epic. In an epic, feasting and funeral games usually are multiple days of gaming when, say, a great hero dies, and you're going to have this big to-do, whether it's the burning of the hero, setting them off. Flame happened in Thor, Ragnarok. Okay, when you have someone die, you have this, drifting out and a big funeral type of game, because this is not only the time when they are celebrating the life of somebody who has centered their society, but they're also celebrating the mantle being passed to someone else and a continuation of that society based around a new hero or a new king or a new prince or whoever they're kind of installing. So it's kind of a celebration ceremony of the life of the passing of somebody and a new taking up of the mantle of a new person. Okay. And number 7 is a trip to the underworld or netherworld. Now, this can be underworld, meaning, hey, we're going to go down to Hades and meet all the zombies, and this is kind of what happens in the Odyssey. Or in Gilgamesh, he has a trip to the underworld where he walks in darkness 7 days and walks in darkness 7 days, and it keeps repeating itself. And then he finally makes it to their underworld. Or it could be, say, a netherworld, meaning a place of magical beings. Say if you're doing one of the Arthurian legends as an epic, then you're going to have a trip to netherworld. Let's bring it to like a normal place and make it magical. And so we're going to talk about these as far as like Star Wars, because that's something that you guys can relate to a lot better. Because I'm not assuming most of you have written the Iliad, the Odyssey, and the Aeneid, and Epic of Gilgamesh, although they're good things to know about supposedly in our society. All right. Next, number 8 is the extended metaphors or hyperbole. Hyperbole means great exaggeration. Extended metaphors means a comparison of two things without using like or as. And in doing so, what they're setting up is a hero often in a certain light. Say if you are comparing a hero to a boar, then there's going to be multiple extended comparisons of a fighting style or of how the person looks or of how they eat. It's going to be multifaceted type, and it's going to be a long extended description. This is just classic narrative style for this type of epic. So let's talk about it based upon more normal type of stuff that you guys are dealing with. You can look at the Marvel universe or the DC universe and see every single one of these epic qualities in it. You can look at Star Wars. Star Wars, you have Invocation of the Muse. You have the beginning of it, and it says in a galaxy far, far away, a long, long time ago, etc., etc. And so what they're doing is they're giving you a proposition of the subject at the same time as they're giving you a setup, and they're also invoking the blessing of you as a viewer to come in, and we're all going to suspend disbelief. Proposition of the subject has already occurred. Invocation to the Muse in media res means you're starting in the middle of the action. You don't know who these people are. They have to be established. You have androids coming in, and you have, Princess Leia, and there's some secret message, and you don't know quite what's going on. You're not quite sure who the good guys or the bad guys are, except they make it kind of simple because, Princess Leia's in white, and here comes Darth Vader in black. Okay, so they're using classic, like, cowboy, and, the good guys in white and the bad guys in black, and you got the white hats and the black hats, etc. And these are just classic kind of color symbols that are metaphorical, once again, that are set up for you. You have supernatural intervention, the force be with you, okay? Hero of high standing, you don't know it yet because one of the favorite things to do is have a hero in disguise, but Luke is a hero of high standing. He is the son of Darth Vader, okay? And that is he has a strong midichlorian, I think that's what they're called, that are in his blood. So he has kind of this calling upon him. He has a hero of high standing. He's already girded in some ways for this battle. You have feasting or funeral games, which usually happen towards the end or towards the very beginning to establish people. And in this case, most of the time it's going to happen towards the end when there has been a passing of a hero or there has been a great victory in battle. And that's what happens in Star Wars. Trip to Underworld and Netherworld. In Star Wars happens usually, it's Empire Strikes Back, which is the second movie. And it's when he goes and does his testing with Yoda. And he goes into that netherworld where he faces his biggest fears. Okay, so it happens again and again. What Spielberg likes to do with it is it always has to do with falling in some ways with him. That somebody's about to fall off a cliff, they're hanging on, or they're about to take some type of tumble. So his is always like falling into a pit idea. And it goes along with the trip to the underworld. Extended metaphors are hyperbole. There's all kinds of descriptions in there where people start talking about other people. And this happens quite often because it has to be done out loud. You don't have a written long poem, so instead you're going to have speeches in which this happens. So that's basically our elements of an epic that we're going to discuss. There are actually more of them, but these are basically what we're going to talk about. And just start reading and start kind of seeing where these apply to the story that you are meant to be reading. Thanks. Bye.